Jan Błachowicz got big and strong. Came out on Twitter and laid his case out, and it was strong. I grabbed it. I would grab it and repeat it for you. I don't curse. There was some cursing in there. Now, he was serious. This was passion. He laid it out. It was awesome. It couldn't have been any better. For 160 characters or less, he even had to use 2. But he fit it all in, and he said a lot. It was perfect. It was perfect what he did. Now, have you guys ever been in a situation where it's a big situation? You're in a jackpot. You've got to get this thing figured out. There's going to be big stresses, big pressure. You got to get this one right. And you did nothing. You couldn't figure out what to do. You were worried about it. You were staying up late. It was eating away at you. You knew you had to do something, but you froze, and you ended up doing nothing at all. Then, it all worked out for you. I'm just asking, has that ever happened to you? I know people that do this theory. They do nothing. When I don't know what to do, I do nothing, and it generally works out for me. Like, I actually know people that do that. I think that just happened to Glover Teixeira. So, brought to you guys a couple of days ago. But between Błachowicz, between Glover, between Ankalaev, one of those 3 is going to be fighting Jiri Prochazka for a world championship next. Everything they've ever dreamed of will be 1 win away. One of them is going to. But who? They all had really strong and really compelling arguments, and none of them did anything. And it's very relevant that you understand what they're up against. I've had people push back on me and say, Chael, we don't need the story and the drama. Well, it's all you have. They're all done. They're not going to have another fight. One of those 3, Ankalaev, Błachowicz, or Glover, is going to go into a world title fight. Between now and that fight, they're not going to throw a punch. Their ranking isn't going to move. They're not going to show their dominance over everybody. It's done. It's all done. They're just going to be chosen. So when I tell you the reasons why and the arguments that you make and how important they are, you can't push back on me and tell me no. It's the exact situation that we're in. Now, Błachowicz waited. I got to give him credit because he did it. He's the only one that did it, but he waited. And one day after he did, a really great call out. I mean, a really direct and to the point of pleading his argument in a very short, in front of the world manner. He did a really good job. One day after he did it, Ankalaev called him out. Now you got a problem. Now a promoter is no longer confronted with, between these 3 guys, who should be going against Jiri. A promoter is now going to have to ask himself, does the world want to see Błachowicz versus Jiri more than they want to see Błachowicz versus Ankalaev? It's a situation that never should have been created. Ankalaev has screwed Jan Błachowicz to the highest level. It's not just a matter of putting Błachowicz against Jiri, of honoring an agreement that Jiri put out in writing at some point. It's not a matter of that. You now have another consideration. And a promoter come and say, well, I would never factor that in. You have no choice to factor it in. You're a human being. You hadn't considered this. Now you do have to consider. Of course it matters. And I will tell you in fairness, I love the swerve. I could tell you a number of UFC fights that were short notice, that were absolute last minute, that I ended up being more excited for than the original fight. There's just something about the swerve. Błachowicz versus Jiri, yes, the answer is yes. The answer to that fight makes sense. Current champion, former champion, it's beautiful as far as the arguments. I don't know that it's stronger than Glover's, and I don't know that it's stronger than Ankalaev's. Ankalaev, surprisingly, has now removed himself from consideration. One day ago, there was 3 guys, and Ankalaev was one of them. Ankalaev has removed himself from consideration, right? Ankalaev cannot come out publicly and call for a fight with Jan, of which he specifically said, let's make it a number 1 contenders fight. He cannot call for that and have somebody else step in and go, whoa, no, hey, you know, you're even better than that. I'm going to pull you all the way up here and put you in a title fight. Ankalaev took himself out. Right thing to do. Because of those 3 guys, all of which have good arguments, Ankalaev's was the most unlikely. So when you read the tea leaves and you see it's very unlikely I'm going to get the title shot, the next best thing, right? That's what you got to go for in life. When you can't get what you want, you got to go after the next best thing. Is a number one contenders fight, of which he wasn't guaranteed. Ankalaev wasn't guaranteed to be fighting Prohaska, and he wasn't guaranteed that his next match was going to be a number one contenders match, unless he creates it, and he just did. What is Błachowicz going to do? I don't know the answer to that. Błachowicz cannot respond to Ankalaev unless he gets his words just right. Unless he can condescend and tell him, nice try. I've seen you on TV once, and it was a week ago against a guy who had a broken leg. Unless he can completely dismiss him, which is hard to do. You start dismissing a guy. You start talking about why you don't want to fight him. Whether it's rude and condescending, whether it's accurate and principled or not, the psychology of the fans are going to be drawn to it. They're going to be looking in that direction, and now the promoter has an option. It was tough who I'm going to put in, but I now have an option. Two of the guys, I now have an option, which leaves me with one, which is Glover. And that's exactly how this math and this deduction is going to go, unless Błachowicz can get in front of it. Now, I would love to come out and feed Błachowicz the line. I'd love to tell you the perfect way to solve it. Guys, I don't know. I would need some time. I could come up with it. I could think of it. I don't know off the top of my head. Błachowicz did everything right. He just did it too late. Better late than never. I do subscribe to that. Of the three, of the Błachowicz, Glover, Ankalaev, of the three that took a positive step in the right direction, it was Błachowicz. But Ankalaev has now come in and undercut the whole thing. He's removed himself from contention, and as he's going down, he took the ship with him. Ankalaev did everything right. It was absolutely the right move. And if Ankalaev and Błachowicz, and Ankalaev challenged him specifically to a number one contenders match. If Glover, I apologize, if Błachowicz accepts that, it is now a number one contenders match. If you have the top two guys who are completely interchangeable in terms of rankings and accomplishment, and what they've done recently, and name recognition, who the fan wants them to see, they're completely interchangeable. And they're both awesome options. And they agree to a number one contenders match. You can't run that back. We're not going to do it as a community. We're not going to say, yeah, we want to see this fight. By the way, you're not a number one contenders match. We're not going to do that. They agreed to it. And that agreement is very relevant. When you and another guy have an argument, you're making the same argument, but then you come to a public gentleman's agreement that we're going to settle this dispute, and here's what we're going to honor. I beat you, you stand down. And you elevate me if you're ever asked. And vice versa. You get the jump on me, I not only will stand down from the number one contenders match, anytime I'm asked, I will push you towards it. It's a very powerful thing. Ankalaev screwed Błachowicz. I mean, this was masterful. I don't know that it was intention. I think his intention was self-serving. I'm not going to get the nod. So let me get the next best thing was a number one contenders match and make him like it against somebody who's very reasonably a number one contender, and he went for Błachowicz. It was his choice. He had to choose between Błachowicz and Glover. He went for Jan. Now, if Jan can find a way to work around that, I will be very impressed. I will bring it to you. It's going to be a dance. It's very tough. But the adverse is Glover, who did nothing. Nothing. And Glover, who I really like Glover. I don't want to give him a hard time, but boy, if there's anybody that's unaware, right? If you're 40 plus years old, you were 20 seconds away from retaining your championship, and somebody is not going to give you that opportunity. They're giving you a message, which is, as champion, you didn't do your job. You did not come out and build anything. I don't want to put you back in a spot where you might grab my belt and put me in the same spot that I was just in, which is stuck with you at the top of my card who can't build anything. And that's the message. It's very rude. It's not nice at all. I don't take a pleasure in saying this, but I'm not the one that said this to Glover. This was the message being said that he didn't understand. He is not aware that I'm being thought over, but, Błachowicz is a good idea, and Ankalaev, he's ranked number 4, and he hasn't done it yet. That's what he thought. That's not what this is. That's not what this is at all. There is a fear of putting you in an opportunity of which you were just 26 away succeeding and sending me back to where I've been over the last 8 months, was I got somebody in the top of my perennial divisions that can't add any heat. So he did nothing. He did nothing, and he's the only man left standing. Now, I would have always predicted for you that was going to be Glover's fight. I would predict for you if you make your arguments. Not that we go on that, but if you did, if you go to a jury of your peers and you all lay your best case forward, they all have good arguments. Glover's has the best. Glover was the most recent champion. He has the right. We have a history in the sport to have that return to you. Yuri has accepted the fight, and most recently, I know he accepted one with Jan as well. He most recently accepted the one with Glover, not to mention Glover. It's only 30 seconds away. Not to mention it was the greatest light heavyweight fight I've ever seen. But the mere fact that there's a hesitation, the mere fact that that is not done and in stone has got to be a giant ringing bell in Glover's head. Why not me? Why me now? If it's me now because Ankalaev and Jan just removed it, then I really wasn't your choice. If the girl's going to go to the dance with me, but that's only because the two guys she hoped asked her ended up getting other... I mean, I can't really feel great about it. It's a situation I'm going to make the most of, but I can either learn from this so this can change in the future, or I don't. That's on him. But sometimes in life, by doing nothing, you get the result that you want. Ankalaev has screwed Błachowicz, and Les Błachowicz is a master psychologist and can make this right. My greatest fear, right, here's the problem with Błachowicz. He must address and dismiss this notion of Ankalaev. He must. If he wants any opportunity to get in there with Yuri, he must dismiss Ankalaev. I don't know that you can respond to Ankalaev in any fashion, good, bad, or indifferent, without adding credibility to the call-out and just making that bigger, which sinks your ship even more. Glover Teixeira owes Ankalaev a thank you.